I'm in middle school if you don't have me in class.
Hi, my name is Avi Kar, and I work at the Natural Resources Defense Council, which is a national environmental nonprofit that covers a variety of environmental
Can you
issues.
talk a little bit about where you grew up and when you moved to the US?
Sure. I'm a first generation immigrant to the United States. I arrived in the country when I was 15 years old and went into 10th grade in high school. Before that, I grew up I was born in and lived in India until I was 12 years old. And then my mother moved to Botswana in Southern Africa, and I lived there for 3 years before we moved to the United States. We wanted to make sure that no furniture was dangerous to people in their homes. It's long-term risks, things like cancer and birth defects. We ran a bill and worked with legislators to pass a bill that banned the use of these flame retardant chemicals in producing furniture unless it was there by accident. So now when you buy a piece of furniture in California, it does not contain flame retardant chemicals that have been intentionally added. We might come up with an idea and take it to different legislators and see if they would be interested in introducing and running a bill like the one we put forward. And if a legislator is interested, we'll work with them as sponsors of the bill. They may be co-sponsors. There may be other organizations that decide that we might be working with. So sponsors or co-sponsors then become partners in a way with the legislator's office. California legislature, like many others, has what are known as committees. So think of it as two houses. So you've got the Senate and you've got the Assembly. Depending on where the bill is introduced, for instance, if it is introduced in the Senate, it would go through several steps in the Senate, finish those steps, and then go through similar steps in the Assembly before it is through the legislature, and then eventually the governor has a choice to sign or veto that bill. Some of the steps it goes through in each house. It has to go through whatever committee it is assigned to. So for instance, if it's an environmental matter, it might go before an environment-related committee. An energy bill or climate bill might end up before the energy committee. But anyway, so say it's been assigned to the Environment Committee in the Senate, it would go through that committee. It would likely, if it had any costs associated with it, it would go through a fiscal committee of some sort, which deals with how much money is involved with a bill and how much it might cost the state. And if there are multiple committees, then it would have to go through multiple committees depending on how it was assigned, and depending on the subject matter of the bill. Once it gets through one house, if it makes it through all the committee, if it fails at a committee, it doesn't move forward. If it gets through a committee, makes it through the committees that deal with the finances, and it makes it through one house, it then goes through a similar procedure in the other house. And if it passes the legislature and they're all in agreement, it eventually ends up before the governor, who makes a choice whether to sign the bill or veto it. California actually has a strong history of action on climate change. Mm-hmm. So you'd want to look very closely at what's been done before, what's been successful, what remains to be done, mm-hmm. And then see what is needed in light of all that. And once you've identified an idea that still needs action, that still needs to go forward, you would think about what steps need to be taken, what agency should be responsible for it, because you remember the legislature passes laws, but a state agency, say like the Air Resources Board, implements those laws. They do the day-to-day work to make sure that law works as intended. But if you think about climate change, you can begin to think have some good ideas already, right? Like you would think environmental groups would support your idea, so you would look at that. Would health organizations support your idea? Do health organizations believe that climate change is a problem from a health perspective? And would they support this idea? Would clean energy companies support this idea? Are there other kinds of groups that would be, people who are interested in ocean issues? Would they be interested in supporting a bill that stops or slows down climate change? Who else might be? You'd want to think about that. Who might be interested from a business perspective? Who might oppose it? Which industries are affected by the changes you want to make? And what kind of arguments would they come forward with? And then try to develop responses. California has 2-year legislative sessions. So you go through the first year, the legislative session probably goes from about sometime in January until about August, and then the governor, maybe it's early September. Anyway, the governor gets some time after that to make a decision. If it doesn't get through that first year, you can bring it back around in the second year and go try again, or rather continue the cycle. So if you got through part of the way and didn't get all the way through the legislature, you could pick it back up in the second year wherever you left off. But if your legislative session, the 2-year session, has ended, then you would need to reintroduce the bill and go through that process again.
Great. Well, is there anything else that you can think of that might be helpful to our 6th grade students?
There's a lot of information out there about the legislative process, and there's lots on the web about it. And actually, all of California's introduced legislation, like in a lot of states now, is available online. So you can see any bill that was introduced. If look for a particular author or a particular bill number, you can look at it.